Hello, creative ones. This is Robin Dudley House, the Artsy Bohemian. I am in my studio in Los Angeles, California, and I have a gift for you. It's my secret resource guide for the unconventional journal and paper crafter. These resources are resources that I use all the time, and they've taken years to accumulate. So those of you who have never signed up for my online school or who have never signed up for any of my classes, this is a gift for you. Those of you who already belong to my online school probably already have this. You'll get an email once you sign up, the link below, and you can download this for yourself and then print it out like I have. I've made it into this cute little pamphlet. Now, since you're signing up for my newsletter, just know that you won't be bombarded by emails, only inspiration. Thank you. Hello, creative ones. It's Robin Dudley House, the Artsy Bohemian, coming to you from my studio in Los Angeles, California. I wanted to thank everybody for participating in my last Artsy Boutique. I appreciate that. Everything's pretty much sold out again, and it takes me about 4 days to package everything up and send it off. So I'm very thankful for all of you, and to those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. Today we are going to be making paper doll clips. I've been obsessed with paper dolls ever since I was a little girl. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have as well. I was surprised by a package last Saturday, I believe, from Red Lead. You know, my Red Lead is my favorite rubber stamp company, and so they gave me this adorable rubber stamp of this little girl with wings like a little fairy. So I saw a video from My Porch Prince, Stephanie. She had the cutest way to make paper clips, so I'm gonna incorporate her technique with the paper dolls, and I wanted to make them in a couple of different ways. They also sent me this adorable box with some goodies in it, so I'm gonna have to play with these too. I guess these would probably be good for the art coins. They might be a little bit small for the art coins, but how cool is that? So this one is it's a oh gosh, I can't think of it. It doesn't have wood on it. I'll think of it in a second. Of course, when you're doing video, you can't remember things. So anyway, so I'm going to play around with that. So my idea was to kind of make them 3D and add color to some maybe, and also to add vintage papers, maybe some fabrics and laces. So what I did was I already got a head start here and was playing with my ink pads. I just bought this ink pad. I was kind of bummed because I thought it was just black. It says black soot, and I thought, oh, that must be black, but it's not, so I was kind of pissed off, but it's actually pretty cool. It's kind of a very, very, very dark gray, so at least I have a juicy stamp pad to work with. All my other black pads are dead, pretty dried up. So I already stamped a few of her on this parchment cardstock, and some of them I did in the Distress Oxide, and some of them I did in StazOn so that I could paint with watercolor, which I kind of already started with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them out, and then we're going to play with a couple different techniques. These will probably be used, at least maybe one, for the last project that we are working on with the book. Let's see if I can find it quickly here. Yeah. So this will kind of be the part of the series, continuing with this. I can grab everything here. Kind of took a little break from that because I had my boutique and then something else that I did before that. Anyway, so this is something we had started about a month ago, and it's a little bit of an Asian theme, and I wanted to make some little journals to go with it, but I kind of got sidetracked and I wanted to make the paper clips instead. So this was another thing that we had made. This attaches. It's like a stacked envelope. Super fun project. So I'll put the links down below for this particular series of things that we made, and we'll take it from there. Also made this weird, this was an experiment with burlap. I'm still going to do something with it. I think it'll still be a cool thing. It might be just a journal cover and I'll collage on top of it. Anyway, so the other thing I was thinking of doing was, I'm going to do, is I rubber stamped her also on some vintage wallpaper. And so I'm going to do an overlay on one of these. So you get this kind of interesting look here. And I also stamped her on vintage text from a ledger, and then, yeah, these are both from a ledger. So I'm going to cut them out. Okay, so before I go any further, I wanted to let you guys know, last time I made a video, I believe it was last time, I had mentioned that I wanted to start uplifting other YouTubers that I think, you know, anybody that doesn't have a huge following but are talented. It's kind of a shame because, unfortunately, YouTube's algorithm, if you're new to YouTube and you want to look for junk journals, you're only going to find a handful of people at the top. And basically, that's what it's about. If you see people on the first page, you're going to click them automatically. And that's good. That's wonderful for them. But for people like me and people and other people who are trying to build their YouTube channel and build a following, it's kind of, you know, we kind of get left in the dust. So I want to start uplifting YouTube channels. And if you guys want me to mention you, please just leave a message down below. And I will do my best to try to do that every Tuesday. So I wanted to mention these three gals. Lil Rhonda Lee. Most of you know who she is, especially if you have a YouTube channel or you've seen her. She's just the sweetest lady. She always leaves wonderful comments. She has a YouTube channel and she loves to create all different kinds of things. I've seen her tassel class that she has on there, and she's just a sweetheart. So I wanted to let you know. And by the way, I'm going to be leaving all their links down below. I'm going to call it something like Racks, Random Acts of Kindness, or something like that. The other one is MJ Reyes. I've mentioned her before because I did a tutorial on one of her projects. She's adorable, very sweet, and she has a beautiful aesthetic and kind of the vintagey feel that we all love. So go check her out. And then another gal that I just found, apparently she watches my videos, but she watches them on TV, so she can't, I guess you can't comment. I saw a post that she made on one of the junk journal Facebook pages, and it looked really interesting, so I checked it out, and I really like her aesthetic as well. Very clever ways of composition and the way that she puts things together. Also into, you know, the vintagey look and the vintagey vibe. Wonderful layering. So check these three out. If I haven't mentioned you and you want to be mentioned, please let me know down below. I don't want to exclude anybody. I want to lift everybody. You know that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats? Well, that's kind of how I feel, and I did have somebody do that for me in the very, very beginning when I started, and it was so appreciated. So I wanted to just let you guys know that before I move on. So I cut out a couple of the dolls, and what I did was I stamped the image, the doll, cut her out, and I did a little bit of watercolor. This was done with StazOn ink. You have to do it with a permanent ink, otherwise the water will run, which isn't a bad thing. You just have to be careful if you don't have StazOn ink. So I watercolored her, and then I stamped it again on some pattern paper, and this is pattern paper that you guys know about. It's the Theodora's Square. A lot of people have this. It's from Hobby Lobby. Not sure if they have it anymore, but if you bought it even 2 or 3 years ago like I did, I still have a ton of it. So it's nice and vintagey. There's little tiny patterns of flowers, so I kind of positioned it. I had to stamp it a couple of times to get the flowers the way I wanted. Then I did some fussy cutting, and I cut out her little bloomers and her dress. So I'm going to glue that down, and then I'm going to do some other things to it. I also did that to some fabric, and if you're going to do it to fabric, make sure it's a tiny little print. Otherwise, it's going to get lost. Or you can do a solid, but then you're going to have to take some fabric glue, or not even fabric glue. I just used whatever glue I had around. I think I used this. Very lightly, and edge it so that it doesn't fray. I cut that out. And then this one, I already glued it down, but I had stamped her on a vintage ledger, so there's some writing on it. I did a little bit of watercolor, as you can see. It's bleeding a little bit, but I don't mind because this wasn't a permanent ink pad. Then I just took some some vintage tulle and gathered it and glued it down to her pinafore. So she has a little dress, and I'm going to play around with little buttons and little scraps of fabric. All these just little tiny things, because these are only about, let's see how big these are. Where's my... These little dolls are only 3 1/4 inches long. So they're tiny by 2 1/4 wide. So any of your tiny little scraps that you have around, little tiny bits of fabric or lace or paper, you can use to make the dresses. Then I also cut this out. I showed this to you just a few minutes ago. I took some wallpaper and I stamped it onto with the image, and then cut it out. And I'm going to probably glue that down. I'm not sure if I like it exactly. I might just wind up cutting out her dress and then leaving her legs and the part of the butterfly wings, but we'll see. So those are a couple of ideas for you to play with. Now what I'm going to do is I took out some trim that I had. I don't have a lot of tiny trim, but if you have some tiny trim, you can trim your doll's dress, just like you did when you're a little girl making your doll clothes, right? Let me know if you guys liked playing with dolls when you were little. So I have some, these are my favorite colored pencils. They're by Prismacolor. I just got this fresh batch for Christmas. I'm so excited. I've been using them for years. The other ones I have are either lost or they're, I used them so much they're gone. So I asked for another set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color in some, maybe like think on this one. I'm going to do some coloring on her, this one that I started with the lace. And the key to doing the coloring is just to start out lightly. I'm going to just start with the light. This color here, it's called Light Peach. And just make sure your hand is way back on the pencil, not right here. You're going to get a lot more intense color if your hand is right here. So keep it here, and I'm just going to start coloring. And it's not going to look like much, but you don't want it to. We'll do her arms. And her neck. Probably should have done this before. You get so excited and you kind of start working on stuff and then you're like, oops, I should have done this before I did that. But there's always workarounds. And maybe I'll color her socks like a light pink. This is called blush pink. And you can do this before you cut it out. It makes it a little easier to hold. So, because I had painted her legs, I think I'm going to make her skin a little bit darker. So I can just layer another color on there. Maybe more, let's see, maybe one of these colors here. This is called Sable. I'm going to do it on her arm down here just in case it doesn't work out. Yeah, that's a little bit more in color in line with her legs. I could have watercolored them, but I didn't want it to start looking, because I didn't, you know, stamp it in a permanent ink. It would start bleeding everywhere. So this gives me a little bit of an opportunity to shade just on one side if I wanted to. And I'm going to put a button, a little button here, and then I have these itty bitty, I don't even know why I had these on my desk, but I tend not to clean up too much after I work. I just try to clean this area off. Now, the dress underneath, I'm thinking I might color it, but I'm not sure. Actually, I do want to color her cheeks a little bit more pink. And I do want to color her hair. And it's just very, very lightly. So you go one way like this and then down like a crosshatch. And then a little bit on her lips. Maybe I'll color her dress a little tiny bit of pink. I'm going to make her wings sparkly. So there's a gold pencil in here, and I'll kind of see what that looks like. It's a metallic gold. Actually, I might do a little bit of this pale jade green too. And you don't want to go over the black ink because it diminishes it. The black ink that's been stamped on the wings. At least on the edge. I'm kind of going over it on the smaller parts of the wing here. And I'm just going to see what this gold looks like. It might not really show up as metallic. Yeah, I'm gonna put glitter on it in a minute. And then once I finish all these, we'll do a backing and make them into these really cool paper clips. They could even be bookmarks if you wanted. Let's see. I'll color her eyes a little bit. It just has to be the lightest touch when you're coloring these. And in between the highlights where there's white showing, I'm just going to put a little bit of color. She has a tiny bow up here, and I'm going to do something up there too. You can also use tiny sequins to accessorize. You don't have to use buttons if you don't have tiny buttons. Most people have sequins. Little rhinestones if you want, little tiny beads. I have this little box of some sequins and little itty bitty tiny, these little things. They're little plastic shiny cabochons. Same for these as well. So I'm not going to use any of these right now, but I just wanted to let you know that you can use other, tiny little embellishments. I have that button, or this one. I have these. They're so tiny. I know I have some other ones, but I can't find them. I love the fact that these are still on here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to cut those off just yet. I'm kind of thinking I won't. I'm just going to take this little tiny piece of, the tiniest little pieces of fabric, and I might layer them here. Do that. And I've been using this glue, in case you guys are new. I like it. It's pH neutral, so you don't have to worry about the acidity. And it's ideal for book making and paper projects. So I buy it on Amazon, and I tried it, and I liked it. I like the fact that it dries clear and all the other aspects of it. And it dries fairly quick. So I bought a huge container that I just can refill this one with. So I'm going to let this sit to the side and dry. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glitter. I love stickles. This is the icicle. It's like a holographic. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on because it takes a while to dry. And those of you who use stickles know what I'm talking about. It takes a really long time to dry. So what I'm thinking of doing is backing the dolls with some kind of scalloped punch out, and I might use glitter on it. I might punch out an old piece of text from a music or from a book and play around with that. I think I have some from when I did my Christmas ornament, so I'll look in my stash and we'll take it from there. It's going to be super cute. So I'm going to let her dry. This one I'm just going to glue straight down. And I'll just do a little demo on the watercolor. Watercolor seems intimidating to some people, but it's not really. I mean, I don't make beautiful portraits with it. So, I just do little things like this most of the time. And as long as you can, you know, if you're going to be doing something like this, stamping it with a permanent ink, you'll be okay. So I added a little bit more glitter because everything looks good with glitter. I put it on her socks and her Mary Jane's. Now what I'm going to do, I took a little bit of this trim and I cut it bigger than I needed to because it's probably going to fray a little bit. So I can cut the pieces off and then glue the ends. I thought I was going to glue the whole thing, but I thought I should just sew it on there. And I'm going to put a little tiny bit of this peeking underneath so it'll look like a cute little slip. So I'm going to take a very tiny needle. This is a beading needle. It's very thin and just one thread of thread. I'm not doubling it, in other words. And I'm just going to go ahead and sew that on there. I'll just show you a couple of stitches and then I'll come back with the finished piece because I'm going to sew this on first and then I may glue this on, or I'll probably wind up sewing it because this is so tiny. Gluing it can get really messy unless you have perfect aim. And I'm just using white. I mean, you could use the same color, but I was too lazy to go look for another color. And I'm going to make the stitches so tiny that it's really not going to show. See? You can barely see it. Can't, yeah, it's very undetectable. I'm just going to do tiny little stitches. You can probably use an embroidery needle because they're super sharp and they're not real big. Just tiny little stitches and I'll be right back. Okay, this is so stinking cute, you guys. It's even better than I thought. Look at how darn cute that is. I'm doing the last stitch on the lace. And I just took it really slow. I did really teeny tiny stitches and it doesn't show through. I already glued the ends of this really tiny trim so it wouldn't fray. You can use fray check. Those of you who sew know what that is. Glue works just as well. And I'm going to trim this right here. I probably don't need to put any glue on the ends of the lace here. I'm going to just trim this down a little bit more. How darn cute is that? What is it with dolls? It's never gone away for me. Love it. Look! So cute! Oh my gosh. So her hand is covering part of her dress, so I'm going to take an X-Acto blade and cut that. I'm not going to cut it out. I'm just going to trim it so that it can fit over her dress. I have to get my cutting board. So I have my X-Acto blade and I kind of experimented just a little bit by cutting away her thumb here so that it will slip under her or over her dress on the side. Like that. So when I glue her dress down, it'll look more realistic, like she's holding on to her dress. And then this side will be a little bit trickier because I'm going to be cutting out the fingers and the thumb. So I'm going to go on the very outside of the lines, and I am just very carefully going to cut away. Just have to make sure your X-Acto blade is sharp or new. So I looked in the back to see if there was any areas that looked like it didn't get cut, and I'm just going to cut that away and see how that works. So it's lifted up here. So cute. Makes a difference when you just take the time to do a bit of this extra detail. So before I put her glue her dress down, I think I had used permanent ink to stamp her, so I'm gonna carefully just check to see if I can do some watercolor on it. Look at how dang cute that is. So those of you who've watched me do watercolor know that I just try to keep it simple. I like these because they're portable. They don't take up a lot of room. The Jane Davenport. There's lots of other brands that do this cute little travel size. And I use a paintbrush that has water in it with a well. This doesn't have a bunch left, so we'll see how this works. So I'm just going to mix some colors here, just very lightly, and see. And if you don't like it, you can just pat it off. You can practice on a piece of paper too. Ooh, there's a lot of water pouring out of this. I like this color combo. I think I squeezed it too much in the beginning. There's a bunch of water coming out. It just takes the teeny tiniest bit of color so that it looks more natural. Just very, very lightly. And if you're not comfortable with doing it, you can always just dab it on some paper to see if you like it. So that's good there. And if you just use a regular small paintbrush, that's fine too. I'm just doing tiny little bit of shading here, just along the edges of the lines that are already on the image here. Very, very tiny bits. I kind of ruined one of her eyes, so I might have to go back when it's dry and maybe add some white out. So I just took a little tiny bit of a darker color. It was kind of an ochre, and just did a tiny bit of shading around the edges here. And it won't look this dark when it's dry. I'm gonna do a little tiny bit of brown in her hair, just where the white parts are showing. I guess I'll go over the black too. It does look like I used a permanent ink when I stamped this. I'll do a little bit of red, and maybe some white. For her cheeks, and her lips just a tiny bit. So I'll let that dry. That's drying fairly quick. Might add just a tinge of color to her wings. Because I will be putting glitter on them later. And I'm going to go back in on her eye when it dries with a white tip pen, because some of the ink ran into her eye, so I'll go back in there later. And this is just regular cardstock. It's a parchment color, and as long as you don't saturate it with too much water, you'll be fine. I wanted to also tell you guys, even if you don't have the same things that I do, if you have something similar, that would be great. You can also use rickrack for her. Like if you have really tiny rickrack, that would work. This trim is only 3/8 of an inch, so if you can find something like that. This is only an 1/8. This is super tiny. Might be some kind of GIMP. Paper works too. If we have, we all have paper scraps. This is a scrap from my paper cutter that has this scalloped edge. That would be super cute too if you wanted to add that to your dress. In fact, that looks really cute right there. So I just want you to know that you can do this without all the things, You have things lying around that you might not remember that you had or that are accessible. So here is this cute little dolly, and here is the scallop I was telling you about. It's from a scallop punch that I punched for some ornaments I made over Christmas, and I made a bunch of them, and I still have some left over. It's flimsy, so I will be backing it with some heavier cardstock that I had gessoed over, and then I put a little bit of tulle under it, and then on top of it she goes. It's still not dry. The butterfly wings are still drying, but I think that's going to be a super cute embellishment. And you can either put the paper clip this way or this way. I'm probably going to wind up putting it this way, and you'll see how I do that. I'm going to leave a link down below for My Porch Prints and the video that shows you how to do these really clever clips. I hadn't seen it before. Maybe it's been done before, but I had never seen it. So I'm going to glue her down. Even though everything else around it is wet still a little bit, I can still glue this down. And also I wanted to show you, you guys probably have these things too. These little flat pearls. I think I coffee dyed these. They were too white and it actually worked. So if you want that vintage look, you can coffee dye some of these pearls. You can usually buy them by in a spool at Joann's, any hobby store. These would be super cute to add as trim onto your dolly dress as well. And embroidery floss, any kind of fancy trims that you might have, like yarns. And if you crochet, I might be going too far for all this, but I have, where did I put it? If you crochet, and if you do little tiny crochets, you can do that, like little tatting, if you tat. Okay, so I'm getting off track, and I don't want to get off track. So I'm going to glue this down. I'm just spreading it around because it's so tiny. It's kind of, if you have a tiny applicator, I do have tiny applicators, I just never used them. You can put your glue in the tiny applicator bottles. They have a really small tip. I have them from when I used to do henna. I forgot I had them, so, and I don't really think about it. So I should have one just for tiny things like this. Oh, it's so cute. So let's do some more embellishing on her. Then we'll finish up with this and then start the actual paper clip. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to be doing for the bows. I might do some kind of three-dimensional glue or paint or something, or I don't know yet. These kind of look like buttons. I'm not sure I'm going to do that. Kind of want to do something up here, but these are kind of too big for that. I might just do one. see. For now, I'm just going to keep her like that. I have this pen. You guys have seen these before. The Jelly Roll. It's the glittery kind of one. Doesn't have the name of the glitter, but I might put a little bit of that in her bow. It's very fine, so it doesn't really show all that well, but I mean, it's something. I might still put something underneath. And then I'm gonna just, I think I'll do a little bit of color on this. Maybe I will do the pencils again. You might be thinking, well, why don't you use felt tip pens? They're super saturated, so if you have like dried out ones, those work pretty well. Or if you have a really, really, really light color ones, those will work, I think. Otherwise, you're going to be covering up some of the black on there. Not necessarily, but it's just, I prefer, because of the palette that I'm using, I like the lighter color, and I want them to look a little bit more translucent. So I think I might try to find the color I want. I'm still going to go for a pale, maybe a pale pink. So I'm going to add, I'll show you the extra things I added off camera and some different things you might be able to do to add highlights. So I'm going to just put a little bit of hot glue. These are super duper tiny roses. You can probably find these at your local hobby store. I like how they look in the hair and also as an accent on their dresses. Let's see here, I might do this to the side. These I am putting hot glue just because I think they'll stick better, and the hot glue is easier. It won't show as much either. So those are cute. And then I added extra trim to the collar. Very careful, I just glued it down with the glue that I've been using, this glue. And I added the gel pen to her socks, and I really like that, so I did that to the other one. You can see it's sparkly, it's kind of metallic. And I did some to her bow. I might add one of these little tiny cabochons up there, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to do that. And then for their hair, I was thinking they look a little drab. I might put some kind of dimensional gloss on it just to make it pop, and also for their shoes. But you can also take a light colored pencil. I have a white one somewhere, but that might be too drastic. This one's a good shade, it's beige, and it will just add a bit of highlights in the black areas and over the tops that you've already colored, either with pencil or with the watercolor. Just makes the hair pop a little bit. And like I said, I'm just going in the areas where there's no color. Or if there is color, it's the color that you added with your paint. Look how cute those are. So cute! What else did I do? I added glitter to the wings. We're just about ready to make them into some cute little paper clips. These are pretty elaborate, but you know, you can, I think your friends or family who appreciate paper dolls or whimsical things would love one. You could add it to a journal that you give them. Even if it's a store-bought journal, you could give it to somebody who reads a lot. It can be a bookmark. Once I show you the rest. So cute. I would spend hours in my room making my own paper dolls, just drawing them on paper and then making paper outfits for them when I was a little girl. So I also did a little bit more shading just to give it, you know, some more dimension on their knee area and their legs. And this is something I had drawn on some cardstock, and I thought this would be kind of a bigger paper doll I could make, would cut it out, and then I started playing around with different hairdos. This maybe we'll do in another video, but it would be a bigger collaged piece maybe for her dress. So let me know if you're interested in that. Okay, so we're ready to put the paper clips on. They're so much fun. I can see myself making these for little witches, for different seasons, little snowman. Oh my gosh, these are so stinking cute. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am, because I'm loving the way these came out. So I added more stuff. I put the glossy accents on her shoes so they look like patent leather, Mary Jane's. And I added little itty bitty sequins to her wings. This one I added the glossy accents to her hair, because this is kind of fragile, this paper. Even though I'm going to be backing it, I should probably put another layer on there. In fact, I think I will. And I put glitter on her Mary Jane's. And then I finished this one just so I could practice. And she also has the glossy accents on her Mary Jane's. So let me show you how it works. Also, I wanted to let you know this is the punch I used. It's huge. And they're expensive, but you know, if it brings you happiness, then buy it. Marvi Uchida. Pretty sure you can still find these at hobby stores. And it's like, it's a big mama. About 2 3/4 that way and 2 1/4 that way. So it's probably one of the most big that you can buy. One of the biggest. Alright, so on the pages, These are a little hard, not too hard to put on, but if it's on paper, you just kind of have to finagle it. I think these would be super cute focal pieces as well. So I'm going to just kind of slide this on here. I have to look at it at an angle that's a little difficult because of the camera. Oh boy. I just had it on there, of course. There we go. So I put it on the side so I can slip it on this way. And once you have it on, then it's good. And then you can just, you know, slide little things underneath there if you wanted to. Little tags. But isn't that just adorable? And thanks to Stephanie for this great idea. Like I said before, I don't know if it's been done before, but I really like the technique. And she used her printables, her digitals, beautiful ones, to embellish. And I just thought I would do the same technique using these little paper dolls. And then the back looks like this, so you could decorate the back, of course. And I thought something like this, like a spray of flowers. I'm not going to probably use this particular paper clip on this book because it has to fit into a tight spot. So, but, you know, if this was a journal that if you didn't put it inside something else, you could make it super chunky. And like I said, it would make a super cute focal or something for the front or whatever, cards. So the way she does it is, I have a couple samples over here. I did it with paper, but I think I'm going to practice on cardstock as well. This is just leftover backing from some paper, some scrapbook paper. So what it seems like, the way to measure this is you're going to stick it on your cardstock or your paper, and it's about 1 inch long. The thing you have to remember is it can't be longer than your embellishment. So you would use a smaller paper clip than this. And I figured they're about 1 inch wide. And let's see, I'm going to cut it. And cut it here. So you're going to make a couple of strips that are about 1 inch wide and the same length as the paper clip. So I'll show you what I mean in just a sec here. And I will leave a link down below so you can see what Stephanie did with her, which one was I going to be using here? I think it's this one. No? Make a couple, and you can use paper. Paper seems to be fine as well. That's what I did this one with. So you slip the paper clip on, and then you fold it over. Oh, this is kind of brittle. I'm going to center it. And then you're going to cut it flush to the top of this paper clip. And I just grabbed some scraps that I had from my die cut, so I can use those too if this doesn't work. This is actually too brittle. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use this. This is cardstock, and I'm not going to be too fussy. I'm just going to cut it. So again, you're going to fold it. Oops, I'm going to fold it this way. So it's going to be covered on the back, and you're going to still see the front. sure that this is pushed down. And then cut this to the top. And you're going to glue it. She used just regular glue, but I'm going to use hot glue. Just make sure all the edges are, if this works. Ay, ay, ay. The edges are covered. I just didn't want to wait. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take the scrap and put it on the side that you can see and fold this over and then cut it again. Wait, is that right? Yeah. Double check this. This one's still drying because I used regular glue on it. Yeah. So basically this is what's going to happen. It's like a paper clip, like a paper clip. I hope that makes sense. You're going to be able to slide your object, your paper, your cardstock, your page through here like this. See? So I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to glue this down. So I glued one side down, and then I slid the cardstock on the other side that you can still see, and you're going to cover that with glue. Woo. Oh, that's boiling over. And I did have a little bit of the glue kind of ooze out and it stuck. So you can just, this one didn't. But if that happens, you can just push a needle or something in between to unstick it. So you have your paper clip ready to adhere other pieces to. I thought another idea would be to use just a clothespin. So I think I'm going to do that on this one. So I have this composition that I'm going to be using for her. And she's fairly thick. Her legs are made of cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the whole piece down with regular glue, just so I can reposition it if I need to. So I'm going to put her down on here. And this is just a book page that I punched out, and then I put stickles on it. I had these left over, like I said earlier, from Christmas. I just made a bunch of them. I like the neutral tone beneath. It doesn't take away from the focal, which is the doll. And then take your brown ink pad and distress the inside because you're going to see it. I didn't do it on this one. I made a mistake. If you don't want it to look shiny or bright or anything. So you're just going to distress the part that's going to be inside. Oops, this is bubbling over. I thought only fabric tack did that. So the paper clip that you just made is going to go on the inside. So you can do it so it slides on this way in your book or your journal, like that. Or if you want it to slide on the side. You could do either side. So it's up to you. I think I'm just going to do this one again the same way. And so it would be centered in the middle. And then this would go and be glued on the back, like that. And I am going to use hot glue. Just make sure you have it the way that you want it to go. Oh, these are just so much fun to make. So I think before I actually glue her down, I have to reinforce this because this is pretty brittle. I'm going to reinforce it with another tag. I have a few of them here. This one here. And I will distress it as well. And this one I'm going to glue regular glue. I'm going to wait for this to dry because I'm going to just ultimately put hot glue on it here. I'll probably have pictures at the end, so make sure you stay till the end to see up close pictures. I know sometimes it's a little difficult seeing everything on camera when the person making the creation is working on it. And I'm going to glue these down more. Oops. Keep putting way too much glue on everything. And of course, this video is way longer than I thought it was going to be. You know how you always tell yourself, oh, it's not going to be that long. Oh, it won't take that long to make this. Yeah, right. But it brings joy, so that's okay. Oops, one of my sequins just fell off. Gonna have to put it on again. I'll try to find a resource to find these super tiny sequins. I don't think I've ever seen them at hobby stores, but if you guys have, let me know in the comments below, and so I can share that information. I have found them and I paid way too much for them, like at a place called Peacemakers. They have these amazing embroidery classes, and a lot of embroiderers use these really tiny sequins. So I will try to find maybe a resource that you can find them. They're just so fun to use on projects like this. So let's see here. I'll let this sit. And I'm going to make this into a clothespin. Okay, I covered her on the back with I reinforced the top with another piece here. And I might have to trim it a little bit, looks like. What did I do with my scissors? And I'm going to glue these two pieces together because this will be showing in the back. I just gessoed it on some white gesso with and it was a tea-dyed piece of cardstock. So these would make, I use these a lot, these clothespins that I do. I like using them to hold things, you know, to make things look pretty. You almost don't have to decorate sometimes. You can just use a highly decorated accessory like this and you have a cute, can put, you know, hold gift bags together with they could be bookmarks. And I do like to layer a little bit of the tulle under here. It's a little bit of netting. I think I had it like this. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. It's kind of hard to know where to put the glue so I don't overshoot the, like I shouldn't have put glue there. And this way you can reposition it. As you can see, I made a boo-boo. And you can find out where the center is by looking in the back and seeing where her legs are. There's the center scallop right there. And I think I like it up a little higher. And that's super cute. now I'm going to attach the clothespin, and I'm going to stamp on this side. I'm going to use another rubber moon. I like these ones. Just using regular ink on this. So this is kind of old. I'm going to glue this part down and then rubber stamp this here. Those of you who've taken classes with me know that I always love giving these out as little holders. I use them to hold the kit bags together, and they get to take them home. Especially in my soldering classes, because they can use these to hold their soldered pieces. So I'm going to glue that down, and you have a cute little clip. I'm just going to use hot glue on this. You just have to be really careful where you place it. Says my creative journey. Look how cute that is. So let's see here. This might not be a good example, but like that. Or this other little book here. Look how cute that is. I just feel like making a ton of these now. Now I want to make some little witches. Okay, so now the last one is this. It's still kind of wet, but I'm going to go ahead and hot glue it down, and it'll be ready to go. So it'll slip right onto a page or a piece of cardstock, like that. And then of course you could, like I said, you could make them look pretty on the back too with something. I like that. Well, I hope you guys like that. Don't forget to give some love to the people that I mentioned earlier. I will have their links down below. And check out Stephanie's video on her method to make these paper clips and see how she made hers. And let me know if you want to see me make more, but with more artsy kind of hand-drawn faces. More kind of paper dolls. They might not be paper clips, but they'll be fun, I think. And we're gonna continue making the journal and adding things to it, more tags. I have some ideas that I'm really excited to show you guys. So enjoy the free guide that you have gotten. I have gotten lots of great feedback. You guys seem to love it. And make sure to subscribe to my channel and like my video. That lets YouTube know that you like me.